All right. Well, that moves us to number 10 on our agenda, approval of the minutes of the July 22nd, 2024 board meeting. Do I have a motion? Mr. Hogan?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the July 22nd, 2024 board meeting.
Do I have a second? Ms. Snipes seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? You can still vote. Motion carries 6-0. And that moves us to public participation. I don't believe we have anyone signed up for public participation, so we'll just move right along to the action agenda. Number 12, action is necessary or appropriate on matters discussed in executive session. Mr. Hogan.
Yeah, I've got, I believe, 3 of them out of this. First one, I'd like to make a motion the board approve selected employment items shown in Exhibit A.
I have a second. Ms. Huddle seconded. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Do I have any other motions from
Yeah,
executive?
I've got 2 more. I'd like to make a motion the board approve the sale of land parcels shown in Exhibit C.
Do I have a second? Ms. Snipes seconded. Any discussion?
I just want to clarify, because I don't want people thinking we just went and sold some huge
just
plot
bought a
of land.
huge piece of
So
property.
do you want to
Thank you. Go ahead.
describe?
No,
Go ahead.
please.
So these are little tiny piece of land in front of, well, fairly tiny, around Dutch Fork Elementary that's required because they're widening Broad River Road, right?
Right.
And the second piece is
By the
Right
by the
back
district
here.
office.
by the district office, and it's even smaller.
Yeah.
So they're just
Point
little
zero.
pieces of
Widening
land for
Broad
road
River.
widening.
Yeah.
All right, so we have that motion on the floor. I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor? The motion carries 6-0. And then,
Got one more. I'd like to make a motion the board approve additional services for Dutch Fork Elementary with Melissa Biggerstaff Educational Services in the amount of $3,500 shown in Exhibit D.
a second, Mr. Satterfield seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? That motion carries 6-0. And then that moves us to item 13 on the agenda, approval of Mid-Carolina Electric right-of-way request as seen in Exhibit E.
Approaching the lectern is Mr. Dave Wiseman, Executive Director of Operations, to talk about the easement request from Mid-Carolina Electric. Mr. Wiseman.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Ross, members of the community, thank you for having me back up here. Recently, the Mid-Carolina Electrical Corporation has approached us about digging some underground power lines onto the property, which we call the ball field, basically the land between this building and the Walmart area. It will allow them that when a power failure goes out to still be able to provide power to this area of the town. Specifically for us, it's Dutch Fork Middle and Dutch Fork High School, as well as the district office. So it's a blessing for us. It will be no impact to the land if we decide to do some future building in that area. It's going to be far enough away that it will not impact us. In fact, they mentioned that they will have a place already set aside if we need to hook into. They're going to go ahead and put that in there for us at no cost. So this is just the underground power line. As you can see, the red line is going running along Dutch Fork Road, and it'll take a right before you get to the traffic light, just kind of skirt the edge of our property, and then connect with another source at that end.
Any questions? Sorry, any questions? Ms. Huddle?
I assume, but you know what they say about assuming, so I want to ask, if they hit a sewer line or water line or anything like that, they're going to fix it?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
just want to make sure.
Anybody else? All right. Do I have a motion? Mr. Hogan.
I'll make the motion that the board approves the easement request for Mid-Carolina Electric.
Do I have a second? Ms. Snipes seconded. We just had discussion, but do we have anything else? All right, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? That motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Wiseman. All right, and that moves us to the change order approval for Irmo High School flooring as seen in Exhibit F.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have Director of Facilities, Alan Knotts, and Executive Director of Operations, Mr. Dave Wiseman, and freshly from volleyball practice at Irmo, we have Bart Cease. Bart Cease is with EdCon, construction. One of the things we bring is a change order request from the administration. In the ERMO building, we've have 3 flooring types. We've had the terrazzo that's in their lobby with the has the stinger design in there, and then we had polished concrete, which was a product that we were using to kind of glide in with that or mesh up with that terrazzo. Our request is to go with the Texas granite. I wanted Mr. Cease to be here to explain as a contractor the difference between the two. There's an assumption that we're going with an inferior flooring product, and with the Texas granite, we currently use that in Chapin High School. It's in Spring Hill High School. It's in Piney Woods. This is a product that we're very familiar with, we have experience with. So I was just going to ask Mr. Wiseman if Mr. Cease can just kind of explain the two from a contractor standpoint, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Wiseman for the request.
So, as Dr. Ross said, I am just a contractor. I don't represent any particular side or one or the other. Both products we have incorporated and used in projects over the years. The Cates Center has the polished concrete. Obviously, Spring Hill and some of the other schools in the district have Texas granite. They're both quality products. The biggest difference, referencing inferior product or a lesser quality product, polished concrete is just very, very labor intensive. It's designed originally, you see it in Lowe's, Home Depot's big, huge box stores, where it's much easier to take a big grinding machine and grind the areas to get that polish, that shine that you see. In a school such as ERMO, there's a lot of masonry walls. And so what that means is that grinder can't reach those walls. And so every foot of wall that you have to do, you're gonna have someone on their hands and knees with a small grinder grinding against that floor. And so you can imagine how much labor that is. And as you well know, labor is where the cost is. And when you're talking hours and hours and hours and months of just grinding on your hands and knees with a small grinder is really what drives the cost up on the polished concrete. So it's not that Texas granite is an inferior product, it's a different product. Polished concrete is exactly what it says. It's concrete that's been polished. Texas granite has concrete underneath it, and you put a product on top of it. It's a product that's designed for what we're using it for, what you guys are proposing to use for. We've used it in many of your schools. We put it down. Spring Hill's a perfect example. That school's 10 plus years old, and that tile looks better than it did the day we put it down, which is the beauty of the Texas granite. Our luxury vinyl tile is what it's called in the industry now. You can polish it, you can buff it, and it has the shine, and it lasts. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Anything else, Dr. Ross?
Just wondering if there were any questions for the person who actually works with both of it.
Do we have any questions, Ms. Huddle?
I have a picture of Piney Woods, and I went on a site visit. We visit the schools back in November, and there's a hallway outside the cafeteria where there's like a bubble all the way across, and that school's just now 3 years old. What causes something like that?
It's hard to say. There's obviously, Piney Wood, I'm assuming, has luxury vinyl tile in it. Okay. So more than likely there's some sort of imperfection under the floor, possibly some settlement or something. I can't really tell from looking at that, but just kind of that looks like maybe some trash and material was left under the floor.
If it goes all the way across
then
a
more than
hallway?
likely that's a joint
Okay.
that has settled or moved or wasn't properly patched. When you have, obviously you can't pour the entire slab at one time, so you have cold joints that you have to put in there. And there are design ways that you make sure those don't settle and move, that they stay together. And that's, if it's all the way across, that's probably what that is. And you would have that, whether you had a polished concrete floor or a luxury vinyl tile, you're still gonna have that same cold joint. So you have to treat that cold joint accordingly. And if you don't, then you get something like that.
We also had in the McMillan, I can't remember, what was it, Pasden Smith report, anyway, that we had delamination. Is this delamination, or is that something else?
That looks, if you're describing a crack, that's just a separation in your substrate.
Okay. But delamination is the tile actually coming up.
That would be, a tile can do that. That happens from moisture. If water gets spilled on it, you get a leak in your building, any tile will do that, whether it's, carpet will do that, VCT will do that, a wood floor will do that. Anytime you introduce moisture or something to it, it doesn't like that. So that would be probably why it's delaminating more than the fact that, because the glue that are used today, they're designed for just that to hold it down.
I was going to ask about that too. Okay, so I don't think it was a change order. I think it was just a use of contingency. But at the same school, they came back and increased the budget $52,000 for a different glue than the glue that was originally prescribed, I guess, or planned. So what would we do at Irmo High School? How would we make sure that we don't come back with another change order because now we need new glue?
Seeing that I wasn't there, I'm not sure exactly what the reasoning behind it. I would guess possibly there were maybe some moisture issues that they were trying to mitigate. There are multiple ways to do that, but that's dependent on your moisture situation, your humidity, your temperature controls. There's a lot of variables that come into play with that, and I'm not sure what the architect may have specified originally on that product, but most of the time, luxury vinyl tile is not very moisture sensitive at all, at least recently in my experience.
I guess my question is, does this change order include the highest cost glue that might be necessary if there was high moisture content? Or would you have to come back to us and say, turns out we need to use a different glue?
I am not 100% sure on that. I haven't looked back at that recently. We bid this back in November. I've done a couple things since then, so I apologize for that. I would need to look through that, but I'm fairly confident that this architect team designed something that we would be able to move in accordingly without much problems.
Mr. Hogan?
So with the polished concrete, I know that's what we originally anticipated versus the Texas granite. Is there any difference in the installation or the time that would take you guys start to finish? Would one or the other cause a potential delay, or one be substantially longer to install than the other?
The polished concrete probably has a longer installation period just because of the grinding that I described previously. Also, there's a lot more floor protection that you have to do. Polished concrete's nice, but it's very difficult to maintain as you build a masonry structure on it. I'm sure everyone's seen what it takes to build a masonry structure. So there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of equipment, there's a lot of heavy block, there's concrete that you have to pour in the block. You have to protect the floor to do that. So that's a more difficult process, and that does come into play in some of the process of there. So I would say just, the Texas granite is probably an easier installation.
Got it. But on the labor side, it's more intensive on the front end. But on the flip side of that, to keep the polished concrete up to the standards is a simpler process for maintenance 5, 10, 20 years down the road?
There's maintenance to both products. There's daily care, there's monthly care, and there's yearly care to each product. Alan could probably speak a little better to that, but neither product is a maintenance-free product, and both products will require effort and continuation. There will have to be someone sweeping those floors, whether they're polished concrete or whether they're an LVT. You have to keep the sand and the debris off of it, and then you still have to continue to maintain those over the years.
Can I ask another? Go ahead, Russ.
I'm sorry, and I just want to interrupt, but if Alan, you can speak to kind of maintenance. This is Texas granted at Seven Oaks Elementary, And so we're showing kind of what our maintenance schedule is. We buy, the equipment that we buy, the materials that we buy, and the process. So I don't know if, I don't want to put you on the spot if you kind of walk them through how we maintain
No
this.
problem. So, typically you're gonna sit there and you're gonna make sure that you sweep the floors daily. That's a daily requirement. And then depending on the type of polish you want on the floor, if you want more of a high polish, you're gonna burnish the floors more often than you would if you want more of a matte finish, and that's typically weekly. This product here, the Texas Granite, is not like the old school VCT where you have to strip the floors down and remove all the wax and then come back and add several layers of wax. So it's not that type of flooring. It is a wax-free type of flooring. With the polished concrete, it's more of you go through, you're gonna sweep it once a day, and then I think depending on what brand or what product sealer you go with, it might be quarterly or annual. There's some maintenance involved with that, but I know there's different products require different things to maintain warranties.
That's good. Another one, yeah. So, and this came to us as something for us to discuss when we were having to make a decision on a change order for additional cost for this project. With that being in mind, if these were the exact same cost, is there a preference? Let me rephrase that. If they were the same cost, is there a preference if you were to own the building versus if you were to build the building? And is that answer the same?
I think there's a lot of different variables that tie into things now that we have broken ground. Just in general, I think there's a lot of other new variables that we've seen. So I mean, to me, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, it's just
It's easy
there's
for
a
me.
lot of stuff that's
Have
happened.
you talked to the principal, it's the Texas Granite, you talked to our staff, this is the product that we have experience with. Bart, there's one thing that if you can speak to, I know we were talking about sound in the classroom setting. If you want to speak to these two products in terms of how sound works in that.
Sure. So, obviously, when you design a school, you want to, there's a learning coefficient here that you want to deal with. And the downside to a concrete floor is you're just adding another hard surface to the room. You already have masonry walls around your four sides, which are hard surfaces. You've got a ceiling, which does absorb, but if you have polished concrete, it's going to be a louder atmosphere, just because that's another place for sound to bounce off of. Typically, I see these in Kate centers. We've done this, we've done polished concrete in a Kate center in Somerville, and then obviously the Kate center within the district has polished concrete. It's more set up for more of industrial use. So I think that's, from our standpoint, when we saw this as polished concrete while we were looking at the documents before bid, our comment was, this is really gonna be loud. We don't know if this is gonna be something the district wants. That's just from EdCon's standpoint. We'll obviously do whatever you guys direct us to do, not a problem, but that was our first comment and thought in-house in our office was that this is gonna be loud because there's nothing to absorb. You got carpet here, it absorbs sound. If this was concrete, it's not gonna absorb the sound and it's gonna bounce.
Mr. Satterfield.
Yeah, just one quick question. With the existing floors at Irmo and for continuity, will the granite blend better than the polished concrete?
There, go ahead.
I believe there's a way to make all that blend pretty smoothly. With some of the Texas Granite products that we have looked at recently, I think there's a way to get the look of the CFA and then add some additional pops of color that we had intended on doing early on.
So it would appear there's some continuity, so it
Yes,
wouldn't
sir.
be like two completely separate structures?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank
And
you.
I believe you have some schools already that have terrazzo lobbies that transition into LVT, and it's just, if you marry them together and they're flush, no one's you're not gonna recognize it, because that LVT can have that same shine as that terrazzo, and you walk into, and most people don't go down looking at the floors. They're gonna be looking around, and looking, see what's there. So I think, that's, you can take care of that.
I have a question. This might have already been asked and answered in a previous meeting, but the hallways and the classrooms, do they all have the same surface? Are the classrooms, or is that just like the first floor all has, is everything the Texas granite? Does that make sense?
So all floors in the classroom area, the 3 stories, all hallways and all classrooms are polished or
Okay.
luxury vinyl tile. So it's uniform throughout the whole structure, from the classroom section back. The admin and the media center are a combination of different things, but that's your front area, that's your showpiece, that's where you want to wow people. Then you get back into the teaching section, and then it's a classroom wing.
Okay.
Really
okay.
is.
Ms. Huddle?
The east wing at Irmo High School is terrazzo, correct, in the hallways and the classrooms? I'm pretty sure it is.
Classrooms are
He went
VCT,
there.
I believe.
It is, okay. I also have a question. The other change orders we received for the debris in the soils, there's a place in the change order where it says effect on time, and all those added time, okay? And I just heard that this would be faster, but I didn't see in the change order where it would subtract time. So why wouldn't it subtract time? Because we keep doing change orders that add, and we don't do change orders with subtract. We're going to be a year late, so. Is there I know the architect's not here, and the architect's the one that sends the change order in, but I'm pretty sure it didn't have a reduction for the time. Okay, but you did say it would take less time.
Well, the question was asked, just why is the cost difference, and does that make it a more inferior product? And no, my point was that it does take longer to get it to that point, but there's other things that come involved with that. Just the polishing portion takes a while versus the installation of the Texas granite. The cost in the Texas granite is more in the product than the actual installation, whereas the cost in the polished concrete is in the actual work, because once you do that work, you're done.
No, I understand that. I guess I'm saying that my understanding of change orders is that part of the change order isn't just the cost. It's what it does to the timeline. And so we've had change orders that extend the timeline, and what I thought I heard you say is that this took less time. So why wouldn't the change order include a decrease in the time if we were to approve it?
Well, I'd have to get with my subcontractor, because I don't do either of those tasks. And I would have to ask Bonnets, for instance, what it's going to take to do that versus this. And so I didn't really go down that road from that standpoint. I mean, we are still talking about all of the time associated with all of this lovely stuff that we found and discovered and dealt with. And so we haven't finalized all of that. And I would be glad to look at that as we go through this.
But the purpose of this vote tonight and the importance of this is you guys are at a point, ready to start pouring concrete.
Yes.
And this decision is going to direct you as to you pour concrete A or concrete B.
Correct, because in order to do a polished concrete, the concrete mix changes. There's a different reinforcing that's placed in the slab. Those two things come into play, and yes, we need that direction in order to move on. We have poured a slab already that didn't affect this, but we will be moving into that section. As long as Debbie leaves us alone, we'll move in section. So.
Any other questions? Do I have any motions? Mr. Scully?
I make a motion to approve the change order for Irmo High School in accordance as exhibited in Exhibit F.
Which is, are you at?
For the Texas granite.
Okay, do I have a second? Mr. Satterfield, do I have any discussion about the motion? Ms. Huddle?
I think we should not do this. The architect put the polished concrete in there, so clearly at the beginning that was their preference. I feel like we're just doing this to save money, and we've upfront money, not long-term money, but upfront money. And we can find the money. I mean, this project came in lower than we originally thought. I'll pass these down. I've got a copy that I want to put in the minutes, but this is the picture at Piney Woods. That school's 3 years old, and now it's past the initial warranty. So to fix this, we're going to have to pay all the labor, and the labor's the most expensive part. If you go into the McMillan-Pasden, they recommended $13,500 to fix delaminating floors at Piney Woods. So we've got a school that's only 3 years old, and now we've got a maintenance issue. Back to the glue, we don't know if this change order includes the right glue. At Piney Woods, we ended up paying $51,000 plus some odd change for different glue. And then we also have, I believe it's the same product at Chapin Middle School, and they're also on the McMillan-Pasden Smith delaminating $18,500. So I think it's a short-term money saver, but not long-term. I mean, it's within 3 years at our newest school, we already have a problem with it. The last thing I'd like to add, which is what I put it passed down to, is that it is a low VOC product, but it's not a no VOC product. And the product doesn't include the glue or the material, which you can get low as well, but it's still no VOC. It's not no VOC. So from a building air quality standpoint, I also think we would be better off. I mean, there's clearly, he talked about probably moisture under here. Well, it's not getting out. It's trapped under here. I really think we should stick with the polished concrete for long-term cost savings and also just to better air quality.
Mr. Satterfield.
You almost forgot my name. Yeah, and I understand your concern, Ms. Huddle, but I don't think that you should blame, because of an error in installation, that the product is bad. We have a lot of schools that have this Texas granite, and it's done quite well. And I'm not really concerned about the change with the money. He has told us that, and these, I can tell you from being in the schools for many years, this is not like once in a blue moon that you redo these floors. These floors are done daily. And to strip them or redo the floors, they do those sometimes twice a year, and the extra cost, just the cost savings alone would be tremendous. And plus, I like the continuity. I understand that the architect may have, that might have been his recommendation, but I do like the continuity. I like the cost savings, and I like that it's quieter as well. I mean, we don't want noisy halls and noisy classrooms. Again, if you were a teacher and you had to be in that environment all the time, you would understand that. Yeah, I'm in favor of the superintendent's or the administration's recommendation for the Texas granite.
Mr. Scully.
Yeah, likewise. And the comments on the sound resonated with me in particular. So if you're a hearing impaired student, it's a tremendous benefit to have the Texas granite. And so we're saving $720,000, right? I mean, that's 6.8 JAG studies. So I think this is a good change, and I'm fully supportive.
I thought we had
Well,
that up
I
there.
would say that
Yeah, it's
I think that it was, I'm gonna be honest, I'm very irritated by this whole situation. I think I expressed this when we had our special called meeting, because we have this product that is so much more expensive than this other product that was put into our original plan. And then as we started having issues coming up and we wanted to kind of save money in other places, we decided to cut this floor. That's not necessarily, I don't believe, EdCon's fault, or, so I'm not putting that on you. I think that's frustrating, because we could have thought about the cost savings as we were designing the school and putting things in, because right now, what I'm hearing is there's differing opinions about the polished concrete versus the Texas granite, and you know how opinions are. Everybody has different opinions, and that doesn't mean that one is superior or inferior to the other. It just depends on who you ask or which school in the district you walk into. I'm frustrated by the fact that we put it in at the very beginning, and now, as you know, now we're kind of coming back on it. Because I'm hearing that there's not really a superior product, and you're saying like, hey, the Texas granite is great in some of the schools, and hearing that it's not going to be as loud as the polished concrete in a high school that, I mean, if you've been in Irmo High School during class changes, even where it is now, I mean, or any high school, definitely, I think that that's something that you don't want to make it a louder environment. And the fact that you're saying that the school administration that's been very closely working with everyone to pull the West Wing together, that they prefer the Texas granite. I think that is I'm hearing that because Dr. Hampton is in the school, like she knows what will work best for her particular school. Dr. Ross, I mean, y'all are, in facilities, y'all are all in there. Y'all are recommending that. The price difference is, like I'm saying, obviously I want to save money, but I feel like there was a reason why that polished concrete was put in there to begin with. And that is what is bothering me. It's not, I will support the Texas granite, but that's what's bothering me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want an opportunity to kind of share how we got to this point. The ideal is the terrazzo. That's just kind of the history of what we have. At $98 a square foot, somewhere in there, the terrazzo is very expensive to try to put across the entire piece of that structure. What we wanted to do is give Irmo its historical terrazzo look that it has. And so we decided that in the atrium or lobby, it would have this beautiful terrazzo stinger. The transition from that is Texas granite. So an option of polished concrete was a way of just trying to transition it away from that. However, we've been kind of bracking this as a savings, and I don't know if that's probably the best way to look at it. To me, is we still have to furnish this building. And so those costs will go into the furnishings for the students. When we get to what desks they'll sit in, what chairs they'll have, what will small groupings look like. We're designing a building for the future and a classroom for the future. And so we need to be in a position for that. I would ask if you all have the opportunity when we have the ribbon cutting at Chapin to go into the building, and you'll see how we transition from terrazzo to Texas granite. We haven't heard any issues or any problems with that transition whatsoever. Most people, as Mr. C says, haven't even noticed it. Our thing is, I look at it from the end user standpoint. The end user will be the students, will be the custodians that have to maintain it, will be the administration who have to operate it. And so this allows us to put a product that we're familiar with, that we currently use in our buildings, but also these savings are going to go to furnishings for those buildings. So it is not that we are putting this back in the pocket. This is going to go into furnishings that, and when we talk about that budget, I want to just show where these savings would show up. So I just wanted to kind of go to the history of why we went there and to where we seek to go in the future.
Anyone else have any, Ms. Snipes, or I think everybody's spoken on it. Okay, so.
Can I?
Ms.
Yeah, how are we gonna make sure that what happened at Piney Woods doesn't happen? I mean, this floor was like this last November. That's when I took that picture. So how do we make sure that this, and we're now gonna have to foot the bill for this, and we had to pay for the glue. So how do we make sure that doesn't happen at this school?
So a part of that will be a part of the, with our Brownstone, our project management group that we have, to ensure that they do the moisture test to work with EdCon.
I mean, we were told that was done at Piney Woods, and I'm sure that this didn't show up before school started. So I don't know when it showed up, but it showed up sometime between school starting in November of '23. I mean, that just bothers me, and it bothers me that we say we don't have enough money for maintenance on our schools, but yet we're putting in a product that is not maintenance-free. Concrete, that concrete floor, if we do concrete, I'll be dead and buried for 50 years and it'll still be there. But that tile's not going to be. It's got a 20-year life, and after the first 2 years, if something goes wrong, it's on us for the labor, and it's labor-intensive. So I just want to know how we're going to, because I hear it's going to pass, so how are we going to make sure that it's done right, and we watch it, and if it starts delaminating, that we're not having to pay for it?
Go ahead. We talked just briefly behind Alan's head, and that's part of his job. You know, we've worked with ACON for a long time, and they've always been right with us. I trust him. I trust what he says. I know that we've talked about this for a while. Any product's going to have failures, regardless of where you put it at. Our job is to find the failures before they happen and make sure that it doesn't happen. But when it happens, we have to fix it. If I had to choose between what I've seen in the 2 years I've been in this position, walking through these schools, I have less issues with the Texas Granite than I do anywhere else. We have issues, but I have less of them. But again, we only have one school that has the concrete. But that's more for the appeal of the building, I think. I think that's just practical for that particular type of building. These are schools, these are not CMTAs. I think this is, from a standpoint of a school, walking into a school, if you walk into Chapin High School like I did Friday night, I couldn't tell the difference, and I looked. So it happens, our job is to fix it. If we can blame it on him, we will. If he can blame someone else, he will. I mean, that's just the way it goes.
Right.
But to be 100%, we're gonna have these issues on a lot of things in any school. I have not seen a lot of this across the district out of the 23 schools that we've been in. Okay?
Thanks, Mr. Reisman. All right, with that, I'm going to call for the vote. There's a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion? All opposed? All right, that motion carries 5-1. And that, thank you very much. Thank you for coming in. I'm sorry for making you stand so long. All right, that moves us to our discussion agenda. Item 15, discussion of the district's attorney listing for 24-25 as seen in Exhibit G.
Coming to our lectern for our first presentation before the board, our CFO, Ms. Heather Tucker.
Welcome, Ms. Tucker.
Good evening, Chair Blackburn Hines and members of the board, Dr. Ross. In front of you is our attached list of all of our legal firms that the district currently has approval to work with for the current fiscal year. The administration recommends retaining these same firms for the fiscal year for FY 24-25. The administration requests approval of these firms under Section 710 exemption of the district's procurement code for policy and legal services.
Any questions? Mr. Hogan?
No questions, just want to say great job.
I also realize my place
Welcome
in the
to the
agenda, so.
I saw you
Welcome to
like, wait.
I would like to ask a question about, I'm just kidding.
Welcome, Heather, welcome.
Welcome, Ms. Tucker.
Thank you.
Mr. Scully, did you have something to say?
Thank you.
Are you sure? We're good. All right. So it doesn't seem like we have very much discussion for you tonight, but
Well,
thank
thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Do I have any motions? Mr. Hogan?
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion that we adjourn.
Do I have a second? Mr. or Ms. Snipes? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.